This week on Socratic Cinema.
Everyone in the room needs to be on the exact same wavelength to laugh at like a dog in a silly hat and the fact that there's a gorilla harassing the school. Like, watching that again is so funny to me, and the people I was watching with just were not laughing at all. Everyone, Professor DeLisio has just delivered
Professor
another incredible
DeLisio.
sermon.
Thank you.
Oh wait, no, it's not what professors do. They deliver lectures, priests, or the sermons.
Depends.
Can you tell that I go to church and class?
Unrelated to anything we're talking about on the podcast right now, I almost just threw up.
What?
Whoa.
James, Charlie, I think we're lost.
Oh man.
Oh, not again.
We've ran into some oddly comforting yet oddly terrifying people on this journey back to Socratic headquarters, and I don't know where we are.
Well, I think I saw Willem Dafoe in a lighthouse keeper's costume, so we're not far away.
Charlie, what if you wore the dunce cap? And what if you lost your talking privileges? James, where do you think we are?
It's like preschool all over again.
Oh man. Let me ask my little frog, Charlie Heatherly.
Beware the beast! The annual wood tree!
Oh my gosh, do you even have any leftover potatoes and molasses?
What is the beast song?
La 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 la.
What? No, I'm trying
We're trying to put as many references as we
chop the wood to light the fire.
Charlie, clearly you didn't watch the show or you would have sung
Yeah,
along.
obviously.
Apparently I missed the beast song.
Oh,
Listen.
yeah, this is actually embarrassing for you.
This is
It is
very
embarrassing
embarrassing
for
for
So,
you.
in case you didn't know, Case, you want to tell them what we're watching?
We watched Over the Garden Wall.
And that's a rock
Oh.
fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yup.
Did you
Read
understand
about
that
it.
reference, Charlie?
No, I got that one. I took notes
Okay,
on that
I
one.
got you. Just making sure. Because you've kind of been unreliable with them so far.
Oh wow.
That's
Shade.
offensive, James. I'm a little hurt by that.
This
I
was
think
your
I might
pick,
go
bro.
wander off into the woods and go talk to a pumpkin family. We're gonna have a good time over there. That's
Yeah.
a reference. That's
Have
in
some-
episode 2.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is.
Good.
Have some nice anyways, we'll get to that. But let's start off with our initial thoughts. Sorry, I don't actually need to sing everything, but let's start off with our initial thoughts on Over the Garden Wall. James, take it away. Take it
Thank
away,
you.
Penny.
I feel like I haven't done my thoughts first in so long. It's great to be back. I'm so happy to be here with you all today, talking about possibly, I think, the epitome of fall media. I think, Charlie's been asking for this for a long time. I'm a fan of this show. This ain't my first trip through the unknown. I watched this back in like middle school. I adore Over the Garden Wall. I love Over the Garden Wall so much. If Over the Garden Wall has 1 million fans, I am one of them. If Over the Garden Wall has 1 fan, I am one of them. If Over the Garden Wall has 0 fans, it's because I'm dead. I love this show. I think it really just, okay, real talk. It captures the perfect blend of charm and tender feelings with melancholy and some genuinely spooky moments. I think the show is funny without ever being like cringy funny or random funny. I think Greg somehow manages to distill the perfect amount of stupid humor without it ever being grating. Greg is just a great little guy, and every character you meet in here, honestly, is so like robust. Like the woodsman, I would love an entire spinoff about him. Beatrice, Lorna, Auntie Whispers, like everyone here has so much going on, and the whole world is just so well built out. It's impossible not to fall in love with this show. I'm convinced, and it's so approachable. The whole show is like shorter than a movie, so you have no excuse not to watch it. It's on Hulu. Go watch it now. I think this was actually only my second time watching the full series, and I loved it. I have nothing to say but positive things. I love this show. What do you want from me? It's a 10 out of 10.
It's a
10
10
out of
out of
10.
10.
What do you want from me, huh?
Perfecto.
Perfecto. Let's take it over to Charlie. Charlie.
Whoa. Much like James, I got Italian there for a second. I apologize. Much like James, this is my second time watching it all the way through. And the first time I was introduced to it by my friend, I think about a year ago. So I've been keeping up the tradition of watching it once every autumn. And it is the best fall thing ever. I love it so much. You have to watch it eating pumpkin pie or some sort of fall dessert. And it just gives you this wonderful feeling of nostalgia in a very weird way. And maybe it's because I watched a lot of older animation when I was really younger. So a lot of the references that you find in the episodes to like Walt Disney skeletons and to the rotoscoping and something like the Saint James Infirmary Blues. I can't talk right now. But you'll find a lot of references to that in the show, and it's all cultivating this really nice feeling of nostalgia. I feel warm. I feel comforted. I listen to the Blasting Company, who did the soundtrack for this song, all the time when I'm working. I'll listen to their, oh gosh, I forget the name of their newest song, but it's about the Civil War. It's actually quite good, but you should go look them up. But everything about the show makes me feel calm and comforted, even though it has this really eerie sort of creepiness to it. And much like James was saying, all the characters are incredibly fleshed out. I especially love Greg. I think Greg is the greatest child put to screen ever. So perfectly just clueless all the time, doesn't know anything, but just very heartwarming and charming. And I also really connect with Wirt and his inability to give that note to the girl that he's really into, because I think Wirt represents a part of all of us who are scared to go out, reach for our dreams, and then eventually we overcome that by killing a evil beast demon. So, it's a show that really connects with me. But overall, Over the Garden Wall, it's got to be a 10 out of 10. It gives you all the warmths and fuzzies.
Yes. Okay. I think this might be, I don't know if we've ever done this before, but I would also give it a 10 out of 10. It was just in general a fun time. Like, it was a good time. It's perfect fall media. There was just the right amount of spooks. There's the right amount of heart, the right amount of funnies. Like, I just loved watching it. And even though there was like some of the character designs, like the design of like the dog in like the first episode, they're like, oh my gosh, it's the beast. Like, that was genuinely like, oh my gosh, that's kind of terrifying. And the thing is like, similarly to how I felt kind of watching shows like Gravity Falls, where it's like, this isn't overtly scary, but because it's literal like children that you're putting in these situations, I'm like, I'm scared for the kids, like not necessarily like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. But there were for sure some like, ooh, spooks. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm kind of stressed out about it when they're kids. It was definitely more of that feeling. And overall, I yes.
I was just gonna ask, was this your first time watching it?
It was my first time watching it.
That's lovely.
Yes.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
it was very lovely. And I definitely rewatch it. I definitely recommend it to like my brothers, they're younger than me, but they'd be able to like handle it. Like, that's the thing. It's that it's not too much. Like, there's not too much like, even I wouldn't even classify it as horror, but there's not too much that could like freak someone younger than us, because like, we're teenagers. Like, we for the most part are desensitized to a lot of things when it comes to like horror and scares and stuff like that. But overall, it was just a good time. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Speak for yourself. I'm very sensitive.
Yes, we know, James. We know.
I'm a brave. I still have I was a brave boy sticker from when I saw Barbarian.
Yes,
but
you
you
do.
will never let us live it down. But yes, you do.
Thank you. I'm glad you guys take it seriously, like I do.
We do.
Here's my first question for you guys for our Socratic seminar, because that is the namesake of our show. What is your favorite episode of Over the Garden Wall, and why?
Ooh.
Let's start by talking about specific episodes, because this show is pretty like, is there an overarching plot? Yeah, but it's pretty
Yeah.
piecewise. It's pretty self-contained. Like
Mhm.
some of the episodes definitely you could just watch as one-offs.
I think you have to break it up though, because the final 2 episodes are very much plot driven, and they're, I think, unequivocally the best ones. Like they just are the best episodes, Into the Unknown and The Unknown. So I think that separating those from the rest might be more helpful because the rest of them are fairly episodic in nature.
I don't know.
Maybe you disagree.
I want you to have to pick from all 10.
I feel like we're all
Wow.
going to have the same answer if we all
You
pick
said
from.
screw that.
No, I think my answer is going to be #unique.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, on the
Slay,
count of 3,
James.
Wait,
let's
no, this
all
is
say the
that's
number.
not going to work over Discord. It's going to sound really bad.
Number 9.
Number 9. Yeah, fair. That's a good
number
answer.
9.
Really, both of you guys, number 9. I think that totally makes sense. Do you want to talk? What makes you, Charlie? What makes you like number 9 so much? This is an interview now.
Oh, me? Goodness. So I think that number 9 does a really good job of tying together a lot of the weird stuff that the show is doing. Because I actually watched this with my roommates who are scholarly film people. They love Nolan. They love Cuarón. They showed me Y Tu Mama Tambien, and they loved the passion inside of it. They're that kind of person, right? And
Nolan and Cuarón, the
Cuarón.
2 classic pair of Christopher Nolan and
Everyone
Alfonso
knows them.
Cuarón.
Everyone knows, all film scholars.
Well, right. If you
But-
like one, surely you like the other.
Exactly. But I was watching it with them, and after the first episode, they looked to me and they said, Charlie, you said this is like one of the best animated shows ever. And I said, yes. And they said, I don't get it. And I was like, so you don't like it? And they're like, no, I just don't get it. Like, it's so random. The pacing's so weird. It has such a unique vibe to it. And I think that for a lot of the episodes, it's sort of like a war of attrition against the viewer. Like, it's breaking you down from things that you thought you liked about media and shows. And after like episode 3 or 4, you're just sort of like in it and you just accept everything that happens. And it's not until episode 9 that you get the like scholarly, cool, awesome thing that's going on in the background, where all of the weird stuff isn't just weird for the sake of like having a vibe. If it was just that, it'd still be a good show, but it wouldn't be truly one of the best ones. Episode 9 gives it a reason for all happening. It gives like that actual narrative, the narrative reasoning to why all of these little particular things are popping up. And I think it does it very well by connecting it to Wirt as a character and his whole struggle to like be confident and to be his own man. So I really liked it for what it did for Wirt and also for what it did for the rest of the show. And I think that episode 10 is also incredible for doing much of the same things, for coming into a very fine conclusion. But 9 for me is like the pinnacle. It's the creme de la creme, and 10's the denouement.
It's like how people consider, they consider Ozymandias to be the best episode of Breaking Bad, even though it's like 2 episodes out from the finale, but it's, sort of like the peak. It's where it all comes to a head. I think that's a pretty common phenomena, of like the penultimate episode sort of being like the real peak, the denouement, right? Or as we call it, the denouement.
We're not French.
Kasey,
Screw those French.
Yeah.
You are also a number 9 stan?
I am a number 9 stan. And I think it's similarly to what Charlie's talking about. Like, we go the entirety of the show really without getting any set rules, set like what's going on, why are they lost, why are they this and that, like we don't have a lot of structure. And even as you were saying earlier, James, of like, okay, well, most of the episodes are kind of self-contained, like you can watch them individually if you wanted. But once you get to 9, then that's when all the puzzle pieces start to slide together, as Charlie was saying. Like, it's starting to make more sense, and that overarching narrative that they've been just talking about and kind of teasing at throughout the past 8 episodes, it all comes to a head, and you're like, oh my gosh. I get, like, I don't know. If I wasn't getting it beforehand, I feel like episode 9 would make me get it. Like I'd be able to sit and be like, oh yes, I get it now. Like I understand what they're doing and where it's going. And I'm excited. Like it was just kind of like a ever like have that piece of that piece of media, like you were talking about with Breaking Bad, where it's like, okay, this is where ish gets real. Like we're in the home stretch.
It's
Like
Yup,
you're
yup.
like the
you
beautiful
just
10 minutes of Tenet that where it all makes sense and then you go
yes.
straight back into the nonsense. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
exactly
it's
that.
great. I mean, it's a great like it's not even like it's a plot twist or anything. I wouldn't say this show has plot twists. Like it's a to me Over the Garden Wall is like it's a pretty straight ahead plot. Like it doesn't do crazy game changer reveals or anything, but it does everything it does very well. Like it's just incredibly clean execution of a very tight story. And so I think just seeing that payoff in episode 9 is really great. So even if it's not some crazy like this is a like internal world designed and they've been trapped here for a million years and like it's like no, it's just here's how we got here. And it's just as satisfying as any crazy other reveal would have been. We can talk a little bit more about some fan theories later because
Mm.
this came at like the peak of cartoon culture. I think this Gravity Falls, like yeah, I don't know if this predates like Steven Universe or whatever, but this was the cartoon golden age. I think where people like had all the fan conspiracy theory culture was going crazy, and I got caught up in the frenzy as a like 12, 13-year-old in the following years. But my favorite episode is episode 7, The Ringing of the Bell. I think this
Mm.
is the episode with Lorna and Auntie Whispers. And
Hunter whispers.
I
And
think
Curry.
this is the best episode because to me, this is the perfect microcosm of Over the Garden Wall. This, in my opinion, has like every disparate element that people love about this show all blended up and confined into one episode. It has the horror. I think this is maybe the episode that leans most into like being overtly spooky. Like Auntie Whispers is scary. At least in before and the Lorna spirit is like scary. I think this leans most into horror. It leans most into the sense of melancholy and kind of gloom that is in the unknown. It has the humor. It has the heart. You get that great little sort of awkward wirt romance with Lorna. To me, episode 7
word.
is just like this is when I think about Over the Garden Wall. It's all here. It has it all. Like if someone wanted to watch a single episode of Over the Garden Wall, I would say watch episode 7 as like a proof of concept.
I think definitely fair. And I think that something that Over the Garden Wall maybe doesn't do incredibly well, at least early on, is it sort of front loads the series with not incredible episodes, like still very good. Like again, the show is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. But when I show it to people, they start with the old gristmill and then 2 episodes later is Schooltown Follies. And neither of those episodes are really the most interesting things. Like I actually really like Hard Times at the Huskin Bee. I think that that's also a really good encapsulation of Over the Garden Wall and a lot of the things that I like about it. But a lot of the better episodes like Ringing of the Bell come a little bit later on. So I wish the show was able to present itself like that perfect encapsulation a little bit sooner than all the way like in episode 7.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think there's like what the old mill I think sets the tone decently, and it introduces the Watchmen, which is very important. Or not the
Yes,
Watchmen, the
yeah.
Woodsman.
Well,
But like I think between that, the pumpkin episode and the school episode, I think you get a decent sampler, but it's definitely not showing its full potential at that point. I think you're right about that.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
and like it's hard for people that haven't seen the show to look at the old gristmill and feel all of the stuff that I feel, because actually like it's such a vibe based thing. Like everyone in the room needs to be on the exact same wavelength to laugh at like a dog in a silly hat and the fact that there's a gorilla harassing the school. Like watching that again is so funny to me, and the people I was watching with just were not laughing at all. Just did not find it funny.
No.
And I'm sure that if they watched through the entire show, they would. Because they would start getting the humor. But maybe it is better that it sort of has that harshness to it at the start. It's unequivocally itself, the entire way through. And I think that's probably why I like it so much, is because it doesn't compromise. It doesn't try and ease you into it. Like Over the Garden Wall is so precisely its weird specific emotion of nostalgia for a time that none of us ever really knew. Like so much of the show is based around Americana from like 100 years ago, like over 100 years ago. I think that Wirt's wearing a Civil War era jacket. And you get to see, like, again, all of that animation stuff from like the 1920s, which is way before any of us were born. So I don't know. I'm glad that it's itself, and I think that all of the episodes, in the very least, delighted me in some sort of way.
Definitely, this was the highlight
yes.
of my week.
Delight.
I would always,
Honestly.
yeah,
'Cause
I would.
even
Casey,
sorry.
we're doing a little dance here.
We're
You go.
doing a
You
little
go.
dance.
You go.
Okay. Because even in like chapter 2, like Hard Times at the Huskin Bee, like I have in my, well, I didn't take notes per se, but I was like, I need to bring this up. That was the most pleasant indentured servitude I've ever seen.
Right?
I was like, dang, they're
Right.
having a grand old time.
You're
And
like,
they're
"You
literally
know."
in chains. They're enslaved. And they're like, doo, let me go husk some corn with these skeleton pumpkin people. Like, anyways, but that's just kind of the entire vibe that it gives. It's like, oh
Oh.
my gosh. Oh my gosh, these are so terrifying situations, but they're handling it so well.
I
And
think
this
I've
is
actually got.
actually so great.
I think I got 2 episodes mixed up. Sorry. Hard Times at the Huskin Bee is the pumpkin one.
Yes.
I got that confused with the one where they're at the inn in the rain with the highwayman.
Oh, I also love Songs of the Dark Lantern. I think that one is really, really
Yeah.
phenomenal.
that
Yeah.
one's fun too. You know what's my least favorite episode?
Which one?
The like the mansion one.
Oh,
probably.
Mad Love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one is just like, I don't know.
I
It's
hate-
good.
He's talking about capitalism.
Yeah.
Ah!
Very House of Leaves core. House that is bigger than anyone actually realizes.
Mhm.
That's a
like it
reference for me
more-
and only me.
Well, I have heard of House of the Leaves, and I love the concept. Is that enough?
Oh, you've heard of House of the Leaves? That's great.
House of the Leaves? Did I
That's-
say it wrong? I've been
He
shame.
really just
shame
cle-
upon me.
shame.
Well, you said House of the Leaves, and I just needed to make sure you knew what you said.
No, I'm
Wow, he said you're dumb.
Yeah, no, James. That's
Idiot,
fair of
James.
you to make fun of me on air in front of all these people.
Idiot, Charlie.
Tens of
Shame. Shame.
listeners at home are laughing at you.
Shame.
Ends, that's
Shame.
generous. But yeah, chapter 5's okay. Actually maybe Schooltown Follies is better than I remember because it gives us some very classic bits. I
The
mean,
gorilla
potatoes
bit.
and molasses.
Yeah, potatoes and molasses. Come on, man.
Potatoes and molasses.
And I will say, I like. This is almost a completely unrelated point, but you know what I love? I love
What
at the
do you
end of
love?
a show. I love at the end of a show when they give us a little montage and show us how all the characters are doing now. All the little side
Yes.
characters, how they're doing now. Like at the end of this show, we see the woodsman, we see Beatrice, we see the schoolkeeper lady and her husband, we see the rich people from Mad Love, we see Auntie Whispers and Lorna. We see them all. And I just love that. I love when a show is able, this is one of the few shows that's genuinely able to give every character their own unique, satisfying conclusion to their story. Like
Yep.
every arc is wrapped up, and it's so nice to see. I just, you don't see that very often. Usually someone gets the shaft, someone is like unexplained or like rushed. But this show like makes sure everyone gets their due diligence, everyone gets their screen
Mhm.
time. And it's
You
just
know what
really-
other show did that?
What show?
Not as well. But Gravity Falls.
It did. You know, Gravity Falls did it. Gravity Falls did a good job. I was thinking of the wonderful Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yes.
yeah, and that has a nice little montage at the end too, where you get to see where everyone is now. I think that's just like gotta be. If I'm gonna make like the Hays Code,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the
What?
J. Yeah,
I mean, I know of the Hays Code. I'm so excited to see where this goes.
I'm gonna make the James Code, which
Oh.
is
Oh
things
my gosh.
things I personally like a lot in stories that I think need to be in all of them. So if you want to, if like does it'll be like, does this movie pass the Bechdel test? Does this
Mhm.
movie pass the James test?
James
and
Code.
it just doesn't have things that he likes in it. Um,
So
which
any action movie ever.
Yes.
oh
ever
yeah,
Nope,
created.
totally.
didn't
Right.
pass.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll have to actually sit down and compile what goes in the James Code. I think definitely I want a little ending montage that shows how everyone's doing. I
Yeah,
want
Yeah.
with
that.
the as we go on.
Right,
Da,
right.
da, da, da.
525,600.
25,600 minutes.
Um,
James graduated with a 4.0 and went
right.
into
I
the
want
college.
I want like that. Or what's the one that's yes, I'm hopeful. Yes, I am
Yeah,
hopeful for
hopeful for
today.
today.
Take the music and
Music
use
and
it.
lose it. Will take you
Exactly.
away.
I
You
need
would
that.
love Fast and Furious 5, I think
I'll
it
be
is.
hopeful
And I see you again.
again.
Yeah, I
Whoa.
like that's a requirement. That's something that needs to be in. That's on the James Code. I think I'll have to look back through like anything I've ever said about a movie because I feel like I do this a lot where I'm like,
Anything you've ever said about a movie?
right, anything everywhere
wow.
all at once. Because I do it a lot where we're talking about a movie and I go, I love when any movie does, and those are all going to be entries in the James Code. So I'm going to be looking through that and I'll compile it at some point. But let me stop. I've just spent like 7 minutes talking about that. What?
It
Listen.
is okay.
Okay. Here's another Socratic question.
Mm.
This was a popular thing back in the day. People would talk about this all the time, and I'm still seeing video essays come out about it all the time right now. As in, like a couple days ago, I saw another new video essay pop up about the topic. Is this purgatory? Is the unknown purgatory, or were they dead the whole time? Because that's a very
Yes.
popular theory.
Makes sense.
No, that's like the show. That's like the idea of the show is that they're dead.
Is
Like,
it that they're
Yeah.
dead
No, they're like
that's what
absolutely dead. Like
and then they come back?
right before Wirt falls into the river with Greg, you get to see one of the tombstones in the cemetery says Quincy Endicott on it. So when they fall into the river, they're like effectively in purgatory or dead or whatever. And when they find their way out and kill the beast, they're resurrected. They're back to life.
Oh, I
Yeah.
never understood that as them being literally dead. Like
I'm pretty sure they
Resuscitation,
are.
baby.
I don't
I
know though.
figured they
Maybe
could
I'm
have just
wrong.
been like unconscious. I don't think it's ever made textual, but I think I don't know because I mean
It can be deeply inferred that they were dead.
I guess because I don't know I mean I suppose it makes sense. They didn't get like hit by the train, right? They fell into the river.
Yeah,
They,
they
like-
fell into the river.
Yeah.
But it's also like the entire show is about souls.
No,
And,
I
like, finding your
understand.
way.
Like I get that. I guess I don't know. I never really like I don't know why that didn't really like I always knew that was an idea. It's like, oh, they're dead, but I never like read it that way. I don't know. I
How
guess
did you read it?
I mean, I just read it as like more of rather a like some sort of liminal space between life and
Yeah.
death. Like because purgatory is you are 100% dead. This is the waiting room before. Well, we can get into the Catholic theological understanding of what purgatory is.
Do
and
it to it. We haven't had a
there's-
James Goes
well,
Catholic.
there's going to be a lot of
This is
like
true.
listen, there's going to be probably people who don't believe in purgatory in the comments that get mad about it. Because listen, all I'll say is that there's a lot of like fan theories where it's like this is purgatory, where purgatory is some sort of limbo state between heaven and hell. That's not what purgatory is.
Yes,
That's a misunderstanding. Purgatory is like the waiting room before heaven, where it's like
I learned this in my theology class.
where it's like just get tidied up in here. So you're already dead, but if you're in purgatory, you're going to heaven. Like you're good. You just have to, I don't know, wait. So I always think it's
Oh, no, I'm
interesting
sorry.
when no, I was just gonna say. So I always like
the
sort
Lord
of chuckle.
will take your number now.
Yeah, well,
That's kind of what it gets.
I just always chuckle when these like a lot of fan theories will be like they're in purgatory and it's like seen as this like between heaven and hell. I think in Over the Garden Wall you actually could make that case. Like I mean, you could argue that wandering through the unknown is like sort of a waiting room of sorts. Like I think you could make that argument for sure that it is like a purgatory type thing. So this is one of the few cases where I give it the James DeLisio certified thumbs up. But yeah, I guess that's the lesson for today. Is that's what purgatory is.
Yeah, and I think for
Clap
Over the
for
Garden
him.
Wall, yeah, everyone, Professor DeLisio has just delivered another
Professor
incredible
DeLisio.
sermon.
Thank you.
Oh wait, no, that's not what professors do. They deliver
No,
lectures.
I mean,
Priests are the sermons.
depends.
Can you tell that I go to church and class?
Yeah, of course.
I could be a
USC,
professor.
right? Yeah.
Obvious, right? But for Over the Garden Wall specifically, I think that reading it, like saying that it's purgatory, doesn't necessarily need to mean that it is the Catholic or Christian conception of purgatory. Like to me, if it's I think that it probably is a purgatory-like state in that it is a place in between heaven and hell where souls are wandering endlessly, and that doesn't have to be connected to any sort of religious canon.
Well, I guess
it can
I
be
just
inspired by it for sure.
I just think my argument is that like there is not a like if you're going to use the word purgatory, you are specifically calling upon the Christian notion of it. Like,
I mean, not
like,
necessarily.
I would
feel
just
like
use
there's popular uses of the term that
well, there is now, but I would it's a pedantic, stupid argument about specific usages of words, but I would just say like liminal space. Like there's a lot of other ways to describe something between two things, and purgatory is not a thing between two things. I mean, I guess kind of, I don't know, anything's between two things. Let's talk about structuralism now. We can go in a lot of rabbit holes, but I know I see your point, and I think that's like the interpretation is that of Over the Garden Wall, at least, is like this is some sort of transient space between life and death, and that's a genre of media that I've been digging into recently. I've been loving it. Afterlife by Hirokazu Koreeda, 1999. One of my new favorite movies of all time. Also about a liminal space between life and death. I guess you could argue that it's a purgatory-like state. That probably actually works better for Afterlife. But if you like Over the Garden Wall and you like ruminating about the place you go before you go to an afterlife, if there is one, you should go watch Afterlife because it's very, very similar topic, very similar setting. So that's my film rec of the day.
My film rec, when we're talking about the afterlife, go watch Angel Beats, guys.
Real.
Can I tell you, that had me snot bubbles. Plus, it was also COVID, but like I was so devastated.
Angel Beats, like, I haven't seen, but that's like a classic, isn't it?
Classic.
It's like up there with No Game, No Life. Go watch Helsing.
Go watch Helsing?
Yes, a
Go
classic.
watch The Devil is a Part-Timer.
My recommendation is R.I.P.D. Truly incredible movie with Jeff Bridges.
What is R.I.P.D.?
And Ryan Reynolds. Way to bury the lead.
Wait, what is this? What is R.I.P.D.?
I've never seen this movie.
R.I.P.D. is basically that Ryan Reynolds gets killed and then he gets like drafted into the supernatural police department, which are never mind.
This sounds like it rules. This sounds like the best shonen I've ever seen.
The best shonen I've ever seen.
I'm sorry.
No,
I need you guys to
say R.I.P.D. rules as a concept. What? That's against everything that the James Code stands for.
Exactly.
What is it? Oh, hold on.
What is this, James? You're moving the goalpost.
I need you to know. I need you to know that unrelated to anything we're talking about on the podcast right now, I almost just threw up.
What?
Whoa! I almost just real threw up.
James, did you see something? Are you okay?
We made him sick.
You want a story? So we
on
have
air?
We could talk about it later if you want. It's safe for work.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me the story.
So we have an herb rack in our apartment. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in on that herb rack is a cup of water in which we propagate green onions because we don't want to buy new green onions all the time.
Scallions.
So green onions, spring onions, scallions, whatever you want to call them.
You'll never have to buy into. Sorry.
Right. So we've been doing that for like 5 weeks. This batch of green onions has been giving. And we've been receiving. And the other day, like I noticed over the past couple of days, it hadn't grown as much. So the other day I went to go change the water because sometimes the water gets a little icky. And I picked up the cup and like I got a waft of smell.
Onion water.
No.
Oh no. Oh,
I mean,
no.
maybe. I think these things rotted. It was the worst smell of rotting vegetation that it was actually, I think, the worst thing I've ever smelled. It was like,
dude.
I like had to pour it, like I had to throw them away, pour the water in the sink. Now the whole sink smells like vomit. I'm like washing out the cup for like 6 minutes trying to get the stench out. Then I had to clean out the whole sink. The whole time I'm like breathing through my mouth, gagging it was so bad. And I just, for some reason, like my olfactory bulb decided it wanted to remind me of that smell just like a minute ago.
Wow.
And I had a reaction.
Nothing stank like propagation water stank.
It
like
stank a lot like
actual rotting roots and stuff. Disgusting.
It is horrible. Stinks a lot like jack-o'-lanterns left out too long after Halloween.
Yes,
which brings me to Over the Garden Wall. Charlie, lead us down this autumnal path. Where are we going?
Autumnal path. Where are we going?
Yeah, where are we going? Are we going?
Prompting me for a question with a question, it seems. How circular, how circular. Wonderful. What do I want to talk about with Over the Garden
You picked the TV show, my boy.
I picked the TV show. We've talked about a lot of the things that I really do love about this show. I mean, I've talked about it. The art direction is probably my favorite part. I mean, and Kasey touched on it. Like the character designs in here are so unique. Like I never would have thought that you could just put a like tea kettle upside down on somebody's head and suddenly it's the most iconic character design ever.
Truly.
I love the reveal that it's an elephant costume. The elephant costume reveal is the realest thing.
Yeah, truly.
You know what? Let me ask this question. This is going to be entirely hypothetical, and we could do research, but we're not that kind of podcast. How do you think they got to that twist? Do you think it was that they had this idea for like this fun like world with all these animals and stuff, and it takes place during Halloween and they needed like some sort of like twisty thing to bring it there? Or was it that they started with the twist all along and knew that they wanted to put in hints to it?
What do you mean by the twist?
The entire time. The fact that they're dead and this is,
Oh, well, I think it's always sort of implied that it's like, I think the whole framing of the show is that they're trying to go home. I think that makes it pretty clear that they are not from here. And they make references to other stuff. Like they make references to real world kind of stuff, I feel like.
Yes. And so in the final product, that's definitely how it is, right? They definitely have a very full idea of what this is. But in the ideation stage, like where do you think you start for this? Like what is the spark of hope?
You probably start with the unknown world, I would think.
And that bears, and that's definitely true to what I know of the show, because it started not as a miniseries, but as a short film.
Right. There
was a short film where they have like vegetables driving around in cars, which is awesome because it references the most specific piece of graphic design ever, which is seed packages from like the early 1900s and late 1800s. They are these seed packages with like vegetable people on them. They are the coolest thing ever. They have some at the Huntington Gardens in Pasadena, California. That you absolutely should go and see them. But the entire like character designs in that episode are based around those things. But regardless, it started off as this short film that then became a limited time series. And in the short film, they're also trying to go home, but they're already in the unknown at that time.
Right. It's called Tome of the Unknown for anyone who's curious. Tome of the Unknown.
Tome of the Unknown.
Yeah, I see a lot of people talk about like, about wanting a season 2 or wanting more, wishing it was longer maybe. And what's your feelings? What's your feelings on that? On the one hand, I think it didn't overstay its welcome, and I appreciate that. I always would much rather have a show that knew when to call it quits than a show that got too long. But on the other hand, there's so much in this world that I would love to see more of. Like, I would love a prequel spin-off about the Woodsman. I would love to know more about just all of the creatures in this world. I'm sure there's so many more wonderful, weird creations they could make, like the frog steamboat or the school for animals. Is the frog steamboat? Do you think that
Frogland.
is Cuphead referencing this? Is this is? Do you know what I'm talking about, Charlie?
They are both referencing the rubber hose style of animation.
Well, that's the
like
style of, but is frog?
like
I'm talking about frogs on a steamboat.
I'm pretty sure that would be a popular. It must be some popular animation from the time. Like I doubt that Cuphead is
Right.
referencing Over the Garden Wall.
Because
which is referencing
'cause
something else inevitably.
to say that they're both referencing rubber hose, it's like, yeah, it's the same style. But I'm talking like content.
It's that whole era. I don't know the specific scene with the frogs on the steamboat. It's definitely a little Steamboat Willie in some aspects. Oh, it's so catchy.
That is free, like not free range, but the copyright's up
For Steamboat Willie?
for that specific Mickey, the Steamboat
Oh.
Mickey. It's up.
Wow.
Not like newer Mickey, but like the Steamboat Mickey.
So
the
what does that-
copyright's completely
what
up.
does that mean for
So
us?
people can like similarly to how people are like, okay, Barney and Winnie the Pooh are free of their copyrights. Let's just make them the most egregiously messed up thing that we can think of. I feel
Right.
like that's going to happen.
Ah, I see you. Oh wait, what is this? Over the Garden Wall creator's new cartoon revealed. What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. I don't know much about it, but Pat McHale definitely is still making stuff and was making stuff when he was on Adventure Time. And you could see a lot of the connection between Adventure Time and this show, like the character
yes.
designs, the sense of humor.
Humor,
Like-
definitely humor.
It's got that weird, like, lol, so random aesthetic, but I think a little bit more finely cultivated. Although I do love both shows quite deeply.
Oh, hey, he was one of the writers for the screenplay for the new Del Toro Pinocchio movie.
Really?
Wow.
That is a very exciting thing.
It's a super exciting thing.
Dad, when can I be a real boy? Completely separate Pinocchio movie, but
Yeah, well, there's that. There's the Disney Plus Pinocchio movie. There's also the Del Toro one. We have Pinocchio fans are eating good.
for real. Didn't know that there's this subculture for Pinocchio, but
But
Yeah.
here we are.
here we
Well,
are.
So here we are. It's that
At
time,
an impasse.
it's that time of the episode where it comes time to decide if you have more things you want to say, or if we take an early adieu to the spiel zone. It's not even an early adieu. It's a relatively appropriate adieu.
It's a relatively well-sized adieu. I just want to say that if you haven't seen this and you somehow made it to this part of the episode, number one, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah, you're
and-
lost. You're in the wrong part of town.
Number two, you should watch it, and what you should do is you should make a habit of it. Every single year at around the same time in autumn, this should be the show that you come and watch because it's doing exactly what the cartoon is trying to make you feel. Like if the cartoon is all about nostalgia, then one of the best ways that you can ever experience this show is to give yourself that sense of nostalgia by watching it over and over and over again. And most importantly, sharing it with other people. I feel the exact same way about this work that I do, Outer Wilds. And that the only joy, the only like true joy that I get from both of them is by showing other people how cool it is. And getting them addicted to it. I still enjoy both properties. I still love playing the game and watching the show, but like the true like rush that I felt the first time that I experienced the two works of art is now felt by showing other people that. So do it. Try it. I promise you that it is worth it.
I'll never play Outer Wilds.
You are a coward.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Socratic Cinema Podcast. It's been a real pleasure. It's so late. This is like 12 hours after when we normally record during the day, so I'm tuckered out.
I'm so tired.
But thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We love Over the Garden Wall, if you can't tell. And I just got a whiff of the rotting spring onions again. You can find
Get
us on
him out
social.
of here.
You can find us on social media on Instagram at Socratic_cinema and on Twitter at Cinema Socratic. And make sure you hit the bell on YouTube so you never miss a new episode. You can find us on all major podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and the other ones like Podbean. So
Podbean.
if you, whatever you like, we're there for you to lift you up when you're feeling down. We're a helping hand. Thank you. And if you'd like to support the show monetarily, let me not forget, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Socratic Cinema. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us do the show and help us finance it and keep the lights on. We're in a recession, people. That's all I have to say on that. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in... you got eager. I wasn't done.
I did.
We'll see you in...
I'm sorry. That's my bad. That's my bad.
Hopefully this episode will come out in October. That's all I have to say. Bye. Adios.
Bye.